When my son was 10 years old, I was so excited because for his birthday, he got a Barnes and Noble gift certificate. And I was so thrilled that it wasn't a Lego set or Transformers, but that it was going to be something where, he could raise his intellect in reading, something that was always so important to me. So the friends who got him the gift certificate took him to Barnes and Noble, and he came back and he had this big Barnes and Noble bag, and then he went, ran off to play, and I couldn't wait to reach in the bag, and I thought, will it be the Hardy Boys or, some great, Jules Verne, some wonderful book. And I grabbed the book and I look and it says, 100 lawyer jokes. This is the son of 2 lawyers, 100 lawyer jokes. So here was his favorite joke. His favorite joke was, why don't sharks bite lawyers?
Professional courtesy.
Professional courtesy, right, exactly right. But here's what I want to tell you. Everyone in this room would be bitten by a shark. And the reason why is every single one of you is dedicated to the idea that your role as a lawyer doesn't just encompass your paying clients, but it also encompasses pro bono work and helping those who otherwise don't have representation. So I'm glad to look at this crowd, and I'm thrilled to present our President of Veterans Legal Justice, Shane Cooper.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out. As Marcia said, I'm Shane Cooper, and I don't think I know many people in the room because I had sort of passed through, and I'll just describe that in a moment. I met Larry about 3+ years ago when I was working at the UNH Law School just down the road. We, along with other founding members here that you'll see and hear from tonight in the room, but in particular one that you won't hear from tonight, but one of our students at the time at UNH Law, Zach Phillips, had come forward with this great idea along with Marcia and others, along with Larry, to rejuvenate how we could serve veterans here in the state of New Hampshire. And so about 3 years ago, we had that launch of VLJ New Hampshire and its sort of second iteration of serving veterans in the Granite State. And this is our first live celebration of those efforts that have culminated over the past 3 years. We were just a small group of people meeting virtually to get something going again in the state, and to see all of you here tonight to honor our award recipients is just, it's definitely gratifying to see all of the efforts that have come into play to get us here, along with all of your support. What I've been asked to do is to sort of lead us through some events for the evening. Soon I'll be asking one of our other founding board members, Dan Bricker, to come up here to do a quick discussion about VLJ and our mission so you can learn more. But first, I do want to read out a note that came to us today from Congressman Chris Pappas. And he writes, "Dear friends, thank you for your invitation to tonight's Veterans Legal Justice Celebration Gala. While I regret that I cannot be with you in person, I join you in honoring Larry Vogelman's tireless work to ensure that our active duty service members and veterans have access to legal assistance. I would also like to congratulate Simpson, Thatcher, and Bartlett LLP for receiving the Veterans Access to Justice Award. And while he was serving as president of the New Hampshire Bar Association, Larry Vogelman founded the Veterans Law Project, Legal Boots on the Ground, which provided legal assistance to active duty service members, veterans, and their families throughout New Hampshire. In November of 2022, Larry helped found Veterans Legal Justice, which has successfully matched over 200 veterans, service members, and their families with pro bono legal assistance. Thank you again for inviting me to tonight's celebration, and congratulations again to Larry Vogelman and Simpson, Thatcher, and Bartlett LLP. The work you are all doing to support our veterans and service members is admirable, and I look forward to hearing about your future endeavors and accomplishments. Sincerely, Chris Pappas, Member of Congress. So with that, I would like to invite Dan Bricker up to the podium. He'll talk to you a little bit about the mission of VLJ. And as Dan will describe, he has put in so much work to helping our homeless veterans and the veteran population here in New Hampshire, along in support of the Veterans Affairs Administration. So Dan, please a warm welcome to Dan.
All Hi, folks. Thanks for having us here today, and thank you for celebrating an outstanding man, Larry. They don't make me better than you. I want to get into, we're all here talking about veteran legal, like how veterans can get into, a bind legally, criminally, civilly, and I think that just a quick discussion about things that are unique to veterans would help that. So the transition can be really hard. When we think about some, 18, 19-year-old goes in, does their service, gets out, that whole experience can be just fraught with, when they went in, it was instant obedience to orders, it was, up-tempo, it was being deployed. It can just really be a hard transition, right? Some people, we don't know exactly why some people can have a much easier go at it of transitioning, but some get stuck. Now, we're going to talk about reasons that people can get stuck, but I want you to know the vast majority of veterans get in, do their service, and get out and have so many things that they learn. Leadership, teamwork, learning different skills that propel them to have great careers post-military. But every now and then, some people can get stuck. Here's the arrow.
See, transitions can be hard.
So, I believe one of the reasons that veterans can have such a hard time is right from the start. You think about that young man, woman, getting to boot camp from day one. Left, right, instant obedience to orders. Well, instant obedience to an ethical order. There has to be a millisecond of making sure whatever you're ordered is actually ethical. But right from the start, instant obedience to orders. If Sergeant Bricker tells you to go there, even though we just saw 2 people get mowed down going there, you must go there. And it must be instant. We can't have any sort of delay. It has to be instant obedience to orders. Now, that can really, some people can let that go when they get out, but others just have a hard time kind of realizing that. Everything is done in an aggressive manner, the speech, and it needs to be, if you think about it. When you're asking people to put their lives in peril, the language needs to be, elevated. It needs to be aggressive, and that's why from day one, that's what they're hearing. They never really hear this concept of, the other 2 ways that language can go. So, instant obedience to orders, and many service members separate, and they just kind of keep that aggressive communication style going. They, find that they get into arguments at work, they get into arguments at the house with their spouses. It just creates, they think that they're communicating how everybody communicates because that's what they learned, right? So if we can just kind of think about like that aggressive communication style doesn't necessarily match with the rest of society. They haven't learned to be assertive, many of them. That's a concept they never even heard of. Making I statements, not communicating aggressively. A lot of them have never even heard of being assertive. And then what I saw so many times is that you get this hard charger. You get this person that's just, they're out now, they're trying to do a good job. They're at work, they keep getting into conflicts, They keep getting into conflicts with their spouses, significant others, and every time they try to talk, it's just constant, turmoil, and they bypass being assertive, and they just go to being passive. Unfortunately, we all know when we just say, okay, every time I open my mouth, I just get in trouble, I'm getting into fights, so I'm just gonna keep my mouth shut. It's like a balloon. It just keeps getting, every day, I don't say anything. I think that I'm doing the right thing by just not saying anything. I think I'm just getting along with everybody. But in fact, that balloon just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And we see it in the criminal justice. One small little thing will happen and that whole balloon pops, generally a fight or something like that, and bam, now we're involved in the criminal justice system. So, once again, I believe communication is such a huge driver of veterans getting into trouble. We've all heard of PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. Now, folks, I know that generally people talk about PTSD as a really negative thing, but I'm here to tell you, and some of you probably already know this, that those things that lead to having a tough transition actually served you really well. One of the hallmarks of PTSD is hypervigilance. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be downrange without somebody that's constantly looking for the smallest little thing, ready to go at the smallest sound, anything. Hypervigilance. I know that it can cause problems trying to readjust, but I want us to think about that person that was such a vital skill to be hypervigilant. Another hallmark of PTSD is sleep disturbance. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be downrange with somebody that can just sleep so soundly through the night. No, the smallest thing, ready to go. Another hallmark is kind of feeling detached. When you're losing people, when you're losing members of your unit, you start to feel kind of jaded, right? But if you put your mindset to that person that's got to keep driving, when you lose people in your unit, you still got to keep on driving. It's not like we say, okay, let's all go home now. So you have to put yourself in that mindset, okay? And then anger, which obviously can lead to getting in trouble with the law enforcement encounters. But downrange, if you think about anger, okay, that's a needed thing to keep on driving. Keep on driving day after day. So it's just easy to see how, if we look at it that way, how this readjustment, how PTSD, communication, substance abuse can all lead to a multitude of problems, to include criminal and civil legal problems. Homelessness, broken relationships, isolation, and just poor self-image. So we wanted to just kind of look at where the greatest need is in our program. And right now, family law, property law, probate, criminal, and assistance getting benefits certainly is a need. If you look at our demographics here, 29% of our veterans are from rural areas, and actually 5% are still serving. 40% of a vet's only source of income is the money they get from the VA, their service connection. And 73% of the veterans that the organization serves are actually at the poverty line. So since 2022, VLJ has assisted 697 veterans. 266 of those were in New Hampshire. 38 were matched with different organizations. And folks, I just want you to see that shows that there's such a need for this organization in this state. Shane?
Thank you. And while we'll be honoring certain individuals tonight, it's not lost on me that many of you here in this room have served as pro bono attorneys and have been supportive of Larry and his efforts to ensure that we get this support to our veteran community in New Hampshire. What has been astounding to me, and I should have mentioned, I mentioned my tie with UNH, but I'm also a retired Navy JAG of 26 years. So I have a vested interest in this, and this is how I got connected to Larry in the first place. But this mission is so critical. It's frankly unfunded in many ways. So then here we are filling the gap in New Hampshire with the support of everyone here in this room. All right, so moving forward, I'd like to introduce a special guest. It's my honor to introduce a distinguished leader in the New Hampshire judiciary, Chief Justice Gordon MacDonald, the 37th Chief Justice of the New Hampshire Supreme Court. He has an extensive record of service to the legal profession and community. Among many activities, he served on the Supreme Court's Access to Justice Commission and chaired the Leadership Council of the Campaign for Legal Services. He was a volunteer attorney for the New Hampshire Bar Association's Domestic Violence Emergency Project and has himself devoted hundreds of hours as a pro bono attorney. More importantly for tonight, he has been a steadfast supporter of veterans here in New Hampshire, particularly of Veterans Legal Justice, New Hampshire's mission to enable pro bono legal services to our veteran community here in New Hampshire. So Chief Justice MacDonald, please.
Thank you, Shane. Good evening, everyone. And Dan, thank you for that presentation. It reminds us all what a debt that we owe to those who have served. So thank you very, very much. And to all of those who serve, those who have served, thank you. It is such a thrill to be here and to see where VLJ has come. Larry, and I think Shane, you were there, Zach was certainly there, came by the Supreme Court when this was still sort of an idea, and all of us strongly supported the formation of this group, and we all stand behind you in what you're doing, so thank you very much. It is such a great personal honor for me to be here and to help honor a lawyer for whom I have the greatest admiration and respect, and who has been such a good friend of mine over the years. Larry Vogelman has spent 50 years advocating on behalf of clients and causes as a civil rights lawyer and a criminal defense lawyer, both in New York and here in New Hampshire. He graduated from law school in 1973 and began working at the Legal Aid Society in New York. He eventually handled death penalty matters. He then joined the faculty of Cardozo Law School, and along with Barry Scheck, they co-developed the Criminal Defense Clinic and started a legal practice that pioneered the work that ultimately became the Innocence Project. For years, students learned how to be trial lawyers in Cardozo's well-regarded intensive trial program. Larry also mentored countless attorneys through his work with the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. He's had a number of leadership roles, both nationally and locally. He served as a member of or on the boards of organizations like the American Association for Justice, the New Hampshire Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, and the National Police Accountability Project, to name just a few. He moved to New Hampshire, our great fortune, in 1994, bringing both his accent and his passion for practice on behalf of the underserved. He first was at the Public Defender's Office and served as its deputy director, and then, of course, joined the firm that was ultimately Nixon, Vogelman, Slosky, and Semino. From there, he went to Sheehan and Gordon, from which he retired earlier this year in July, I believe. His practice was civil rights, professional ethics, criminal defense, trying hundreds of cases to verdict, and trying to improve the world one case at a time. My own interactions with Larry go back at least 20 years. Among his many contributions to our profession was his service on the Board of Bar Examiners. And I was sort of a new lawyer, and I made the mistake of answering a call from Eileen Fox, who recruited me onto the Board of Bar Examiners, and I had to immediately produce a question on evidence, because back in those days, we engaged in absolute malpractice, which was writing the questions that appeared on the bar exam, the Board of Bar Examiners did. So I prepared this question on evidence, and then Larry was my teammate, and I submitted it to him for review. Now, for me, this was quite intimidating. We had a nationally renowned trial lawyer, a nationally renowned legal educator, and I was basically a fourth-year associate. It was going into it quite intimidating, as I say. But once I acclimated to the New Yorker in him, I found him to be a patient and thoughtful colleague and this has always stuck with me, with such an abiding commitment to be fair to those who took the bar exam. I learned a great deal from him during our years on the board together, and it was not just about evidence. As a practicing lawyer, I also dealt with Larry. Believe it or not, he was always representing plaintiffs. And in the course of our work together, I saw firsthand his compassion for his clients and his passion for their causes. I also saw that this New York transplant had come to embody the very best of what it means to be a New Hampshire lawyer and a member of our bar: professionalism, integrity, courtesy, and respect in all that he did. And also over the years, from a greater distance, I've observed Larry in his various roles, fighting for the causes he believed in, standing up for the right thing, and unafraid to speak truth to power. And over the course of all of that, we got to know each other, and developed a relationship and a friendship, and I'm just so grateful for it, and so grateful for the model you served for me personally, Larry. So all of that brings us to the task at hand. As we've heard, Larry has long been concerned about providing legal assistance to veterans. As president of the New Hampshire Bar, as we heard, he founded the Veterans Legal Project, which was known as Legal Boots on the Ground, and now has been reborn as the Veterans Legal Justice. He credits his father's service with his passion for making sure that our veterans, service members, and their families have the legal assistance that they need. As only Larry can uniquely do, he has motivated over 150 New Hampshire lawyers to answer the call to provide pro bono service to those who have served our country. Since its founding in November of 2022, he's been instrumental, as we saw in the data, in connecting over 300 veterans, service members with free legal services, pro bono services. And he continues his work to this day as both a board member and pro bono manager. So, Attorney Larry Vogelman, it is such a great honor, personal honor for me, to be able to present to you the champion of Veterans Award. So can you come forward? And I'll... I think I went to the gym. This is heavy. Congratulations.
Sure, big photo. Jane,
So let me just say a few words, if I can keep it together. Well, thank you all for coming. I had no part of the planning of this, other than just giving some names, and I never realized that so many people from my past and my present were going to be here, so thank you very much. Thank you for those people that I hit on to take cases, and I've been taking notes. So some of you who are here who haven't accepted a case yet, you'll get an email or a call in the next week or so. And I'm really happy that my sister and my brother-in-law came from Catskill region of New York here, and the chief mentioned one of the reasons I started to get involved as a lawyer for veterans, and that was my father. My father landed on Normandy Beach, fought in the Battle of the Bulge, got 2 Purple Hearts, which is kind of hard to do, but he got shot by a sniper in his knee. They put him in the ambulance to go to a MASH unit, and the ambulance ran over a mine. So his back was just full of shrapnel. And by the time he got home from the war, he had the 2 Purple Hearts and 3 Bronze Stars, which is, people tell me, kind of a big deal. But one little story, which I remember following up on what Dan Bricker said, is in Brooklyn, we were on our way to Ebbets Field. And back then, believe it or not, there were trolleys in Brooklyn. And my dad and I were on a trolley. I was about 8 years old, so that was 1957. So he had been back from the war for quite a bit of time. And a truck backfired. And I looked around, and he was under the seat. Involuntarily, he heard the noise, and all those years later, he was under that seat. And looking back, I started to realize some of the things that Dan talked about, and the kind of things that affect veterans and service members. And it's the greatest thing. I've done death penalty cases, World Trade Center and all this. The cases that really move me and keep me going when I help a veteran or their family to get through life. Because they've given so much to us, and now it's our time to give back to them. So thank you all very, very much. I love you all, and thank you for coming.
So thank you. So now we have another award to give out. I had the privilege in many things that I've done in life to spend 4 years as the pro bono counsel at a big Wall Street firm, Sullivan and Cromwell. And in that work, I realized the power of pro bono, particularly coming from a big law firm that has a lot of resources. And in that work, I met the pro bono counsel at so many other wonderful law firms. I left the field, as my son likes to say, since I went back to legal services, I was downwardly mobile. But in being downwardly mobile, I then got to see the power of pro bono from the service provider perspective and reaching out to firms and saying, can you help us? So I had the brilliant idea, and I'm just giving myself a little credit here, when I was at a conference that Simpson Thatcher Bartlett was at, and Michelle Lopez, who I'm gonna introduce in a minute, was at. And I thought, wait a second, our intake, it's not done in person, it's done over the phone or it's done online, we could have a firm that has a lot of resources do the intake, and then we could make sure that we weren't making people wait to get an answer on whether we could help them. Because that was one of the issues that we were facing, just as a scrappy organization with just our board, it was hard to return these calls. Well, Simpson Thacher immediately said, we love this idea. We want to help veterans. We have all these resources. Our associates, our partners are committed to veterans work. People would be glad to sign up and to make these return calls and to get the information that would help us figure out what's the issue. Is it something that we can help? Is it something we want to send to 603 legal aid? Is it some other resources that we want to give people? And they created this program. They totally developed it. It works phenomenally well, and we are forever grateful because it really made the difference in being able to serve, the numbers of people that you see that we're serving, because, we could get back to them and find out what their issue is. So I'm excited to be able to present this award, and I'm going to ask Michelle Lopez to come up and to be able to take the award. I don't know if I have the strength. These awards And I'm just going to ask if Michelle wants to just say a few words.
Good evening, everyone. It is truly an honor to be here with you all tonight to celebrate the incredible work that Larry and VLJ have done and continue to do. My name is Michelle Lopez. I'm a pro bono specialist at Simpson Thacher & Bartlett, LLP, based out of New York, and one of VLJ's law firm partners. And on behalf of the firm, it's an absolute honor to be accepting this award today. For those who don't know, our partnership began in late 2024, as Marcia had just spoke about, and I was with our Chief Pro Bono Counsel, Harleen Katzman, and we met with the amazing Marcia Levy, and she had spoken to us about the increasing need of legal assistance for veterans in the New Hampshire area. This honestly came at the perfect time because at the firm, we have a lot of associates who are veterans. And we were exploring ways to increase our work assisting veterans. So it felt like the stars had aligned. And I remember we wrote notes on paper napkins and we went back to New York. And I think it was Chicago that we were at. We went back to New York and we established an intake form that would help VLJ assess the legal need and then help find legal representation for the veteran. The creation, like I said, eventually led to a remote telephonic intake form where our volunteers ask a series of questions to determine what the legal need is, and then they help connect them to pro bono lawyers. Since the start of our partnership, our volunteers have had nothing but great things to say about the work that Larry and VLJ does. And we are so lucky to play a small role in, all the work that VLJ does. And, it's a privilege to support the mission and help ensure that veterans are connected to the legal assistance that they rightfully deserve. To Zach, Larry, Marcia, and the whole VLJ team, you are incredible partners, and we look forward to seeing what 2026 brings. And I want to leave you all with a quote that, has served as our firm's pro bono theme this year, and something I think that we can all take away as we think of ways to help the veteran community members, because as has already been reiterated, the need is there. So the quote says, "Do your little bits of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world." Thank you.
Good evening. So as we're wrapping up today, Larry, I just want to say to you, congratulations. If you ever need a friend that's going to give you real hard advice, but in the most compassionate way, that is Larry. Larry, I've trusted throughout my career and personally, but he's been a great friend of mine. And I actually met him through the Justice Involved Veterans Task Force. So in New Hampshire, there's strong support for veterans, and that usually starts at grassroots levels, and that's where Larry and I met. And so this journey began, and we helped to set up the first Veterans Treatment Court. Shout out to Judge Leary, the Justice as well, Chief Justice McDonald, and her support for our program. So you all here being here tonight and supporting what we do, we're putting efforts towards something that's effective and that works. And we started this just through volunteer efforts. We have Dan Bricker, he's a Marine Corps veteran. We have Shane, he's a Navy veteran. Marsha with her education through the law schools, and her son that's a veteran, a Marine veteran. Dakota, who works with me at the Lawyers Assistance Program, his dad's here today, he's a veteran. So we're here today, and we just got together and we just started using our resources, efforts, connections to start this program. This is filling a gap. This gap is for people that don't meet the low income threshold, but they're still not able to purchase legal services independently. So over 300 veterans served. This is critical, critical, critical. So our goal was to raise $30,000. We're at $25,000. We're making our last final push for another $5,000. So if you have the ability to donate, we encourage you to do that. As well, we have a silent auction. There's Celtics tickets. If you don't get them, I'm gonna sign up. We have the Bergeron jersey and some other ski tickets. So please visit the table. But Dakota, how could they donate?
Wow, what a fantastic question. And I know that's what all of you are also wondering. So if you look on the table, if you're at a table, first of all, I know that our table budget was a little bit short because we didn't get it that last $5,000. If you're at a table, you'll find a table card. That table card has a QR code on it. I know what you're thinking. Hey, I've been practicing as long as Larry. I don't know what a QR code is or how it works. Don't worry, we thought about that. If you want to pull out your phone and text VLJ to 44321, it'll automatically populate a donation link. Like Jill said, we're trying to hit that last $5,000 between the silent auction, between any personal donations. And I mean, hey, if I had one, I would walk around the room in a hat right now. I'd be collecting cash. Unfortunately, it would be a Philadelphia Eagles hat, and I know that would turn a lot of people off. So I'm gonna have to ask that you pull out your phone, text VLJ to 44321, or scan the QR code in front of you. Thank you all for being here, and hopefully we'll see you again.